The let's go live button. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We got to make sure the tubes are working. Sometimes the tubes take a minute or two, clear out some of the feds in there before it starts working. It looks like we're on YouTube. We're also on Rumble. We were already on Locals. We're also on Twitter now, the new home of Tucker Carlson. And they're working. That means we can get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about peddling. We've got some cases to review. Donald Trump is out on the heels of a verdict in the E. Jean Carroll case, which we covered at length yesterday. And he's promising an appeal. And he has several different statements that came out. One is a video statement. He's got a campaign statement. And he's also got a press release, which is quite good, that is rebutting some of the main points that you'll see elsewhere in the media narrative. And as we talked about yesterday, it was a split verdict. E. Jean Carroll lost her biggest complaint, which was the big R word, won the others, but that's not really what you saw in the media. You saw most of a dog pile. Trump convicted, a bunch of them, hyperventilating, doing cartwheels, very excited about the outcome. But we'll go back through that. Trump rebuts some of it, and we'll go through his three different responses one by one. Then we're going to turn our attention to E. Jean Carroll, because she is also out talking about this case. She was on with CNN, and her scheme is now coming out in full view. Now, she's not going to call it a scheme. I think that this was part of a coordinated plot to go take out Trump using her as a plaintiff, but we get to peer behind the veil a little bit because she's sitting right next to her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, and they talk about how E. Jean Carroll helped to pass the New York law that gave her the opportunity, opened the window for her to bring this claim in the first place. And the whole thing was funded by Reid Hoffman, and she answered that question too. Hey, E. Jean, why did you leave that very important fact out of your deposition? I totally forgot, is what she said. Yeah, we'll see. Now, they also tried to remove Tim Pool, a juror who listens to Tim Pool. Tim Pool wasn't a juror, but a juror who listened to Tim Pool, known as Juror 77. Since the case is over, they unsealed a filing from Roberta Kaplan that said a juror listens to that right-winger insurrectionist Tim, which is just hilarious. And so we'll go through that and we'll see exactly what their bones are with Tim Pool and their podcast and what they're doing on YouTube. Apparently not good enough for this jury room, not good enough for this trial, according to this plaintiff's team. So we'll go through all of that. And we have a clip from Mike Pence. Mike Pence is saying that America is just not focused on this Trump verdict. So we'll see what he has to say about it as well. Then we're going to turn our attention to the bombshell of the day. The House Republicans came out, and they're telling us that Biden received $10 million in foreign money. And they've got all the dots connected, and they're going to walk us through how it went down. And so I pulled for us their press release, their video, and their video press release, as well as the memo that they drafted out. And this puppy is about 30. How many pages is this bad boy? Yeah, this is about 36 pages, this full memo that came out. And so we've got to go through it. You know what we got to do here. So this is going to be some juicy stuff. It's all unveiling the truth about the Biden crime family. The Republicans created a memo. They brought their receipts, and we're going to go through it. And so, my friends, as you can see, if you want to be a part of the show and be a part of our amazing community, we'd love it if you joined us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do member-only exclusive streams in the mornings where things are a little bit more casual. We get to have a little bit more of a intimate conversation. So we'd love it if you joined us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. You can also join on YouTube and become a member. And speaking of members, Dolphin Fan is the man and brought in 5 new members today. Big shout out to Dolphin Fan and big welcomes to Rick, Harley, Sue, Waffles for the People. Welcome aboard. We're happy to have you there. We also have Jeff Loss, all new members, courtesy of Dolphin Fan, who is the man, inviting new members on YouTube to join our members only community. And so make sure if you're a member on YouTube, you get access to our private Telegram group and join in on the fun, because that's where the chat never ends. As we move on, we've got to be properly nutrified and fortified and healthy and well. And one of the best ways to do that as we get into these stories today is to go over to fieldofgreens.com and use code Robert, because we all would like to lose those leftover pandemic pounds. It's summertime, and how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? We've all been there. We've all done that. We all know they don't work, but you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But vegetables, I know, not a fan. And fruit, it goes bad in like 2 days. But instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast. But the greater proof comes at the next checkup when your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Okay, so let's get you started. 15% off your first order at fieldofgreens.com. And when you get there, don't forget to use code Robert at checkout so you can save that 15%. They have more than just real organic superfood. They have products to help you get lean, products to help you sleep, products to help you get your exercise going. Amazing library of catalog of products at fieldofgreens.com. And don't forget to use code Robert. And remember, the vegetables, they want to be eaten. All right. And so let's get to it and tune in to the affairs on the day, because we have some news to attend to, don't we? And hey, Voice of the People's in the house. Voice of the People says, for all the new members, please join the members only streams or listen later. There is good info given there. Rob is great at giving the info to you. Thank you for saying that, Voice of the People. Right there on the screen. Welcome to the new members. Voice of the People joins us on our morning members only streams all the time. We're grateful to have him. And it's a good conversation, right? It's a little bit of a more casual, so we can have a little bit more conversational. And so it's a lot of fun. Come and join us. All right. And so let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day. Donald Trump reacts to the E. Jean Carroll verdict, releasing a video, a campaign statement, and a press release, each one rebutting the mainstream media's narrative that this was a legitimate verdict. Although Donald Trump won the biggest claim against him, he still vows to appeal the others that he lost. This is what Donald Trump said on video. And after the video, we'll take a look at the campaign statement as well as the press release, which is a rebuttal to all of the major claims that you're going to find the media is ecstatic about in most of the mainstream articles. But this is the video coming out from Donald Trump in response to E. Jean Carroll's verdict.
Trump-hating, Clinton-appointed judge who went out of his way to make sure that the result of this trial was as negative as it could possibly be, speaking to and in control of a jury from an anti-Trump area, which is probably the worst place in the United States for me to get a fair trial. We'll be appealing this decision. It's a disgrace.
Ooh.
I don't even know who this woman is. I have no idea who she is, where she came from. This is another scam. It's a political witch hunt. And somehow we're going to have to fight this stuff. We cannot let our country go into this abyss. This is disgraceful. You have somebody running for office. You have a woman that's financed and lied about it. She totally lied about it by Democrat operatives, like just about the biggest one there is. And she said that wasn't true. They found that she lied about it, and the judge wasn't even, I guess, letting it be put in.
That's
as
right.
Evidence. The whole thing is a scam, and it's a shame, and it's a disgrace to our country.
Trump is right about that. And he was mentioning specifically the fact that the lawsuit was funded by Reid Hoffman, and it was not disclosed during the deposition. E. Jean Carroll was asked who was funding the lawsuit, and she said nobody, to her knowledge. Later on, as you can find at spotlightlawyer.com/Trump on the mind map, Alina Abba, we have the document saved there, got a letter from Roberta Kaplan that said, we listened to the deposition again, and we found that our client's facts that she reported to you are not accurate. We are being funded by somebody called Reid Hoffman. And Alina Abba and her lawyers had to beat it out of the other side to get him to even admit that in a phone call, according to Alina and her letters to the judge. Now, when this was pertinent in the trial, the judge said it is not allowed in as evidence. Of course, we want to know why somebody would be funding a lawsuit. Do they really care about victims of abuse, or are they more interested in pursuing litigation against their political opponents, namely Donald Trump, somebody against whom they have a history of fighting and funding other efforts? But the judge said this wasn't relevant. The jury couldn't hear any of this. And so Trump is exactly right. It is inappropriate to have a verdict when the jury cannot hear the evidence. Now, Trump released other statements as well. The campaign published this message. They said, where is it? Here is the statement from Trump's team. They wrote, the Democratic Party's never-ending witch hunt of President Trump hit a new low today. In jurisdictions wholly controlled by the Democratic Party, our nation's system is now compromised by extremely left-wing politics. We have allowed false and totally made-up claims from troubled individuals, Eugene, to interfere with our elections, doing great damage. Make no mistake, this entire bogus case is a political endeavor targeting President Trump because he is now an overwhelming frontrunner to once again be elected president of the United States. The continued abuse of our great Constitution for political ends is disgusting and cannot be tolerated. Our nation is in serious trouble when claims lacking any evidence or proof or eyewitnesses can invade our courts to score political points. Sadly, for the enemies of American freedom and democracy, President Trump will never stop fighting for the American people, no matter what the radical Democrats dream up next. This case will be appealed, and we will ultimately win. And we talked about some of the bases of an appeal yesterday when we were refreshing our recollection with the Joe Tacopina letter that he sent into the judge, and he said, Your Honor, there are 7 different reasons, 7 different errors in the admission of evidence that you made, and that we're going to be appealing on that basis. And of course, the question was, would Trump want to do that? They could just settle this. Trump could just say, okay, here's your $5 million. Go away. I'm in the middle of an election. I don't want to go through appeals, and we'll just leave it at that. If he weren't Donald Trump, obviously somebody else might consider that. Trump did not. He decided he would appeal. And in fact, they have also put out a statement explaining and rebutting each of the key points in a campaign press release. And so let's get that up, which is here. This comes from the desk of Donald Trump. Which I think they just refreshed it, which is not what I wanted. All right. Well, I was going to read the whole statement, but they just, apparently the link is now dead. So let's see what else we've got. All right. Well, I don't have that statement. I don't know where it went. They had a full statement on their website. So that is the end of that. So we've got Trump is vowing to appeal this. It is going to go up to the Court of Appeals in the New York Circuit. We'll continue to follow and see what it says. Thanks for subscribing as we follow along and cover it. And so let's turn our attention over to E. Jean Carroll, who is now next up. And we'll talk about her because she was on with CNN. Now the trial is over, E. Jean Carroll can finally talk about the case, and she did. Jumped right on with CNN to celebrate, and in doing so, she revealed more about her scheme to get Trump. We've got several different clips. One where she said that she helped pass the New York law, and that's curious because she filed under the same law that she helped to pass. She also is going to explain how she conveniently forgot during a deposition to disclose information about who was actually funding the lawsuit. And then, as we were told throughout this entire ordeal, this was about victims of abuse. This was about people who have been hurt and damaged by Donald Trump. This isn't about politics at all. No, we turn around and we see that E. Jean Carroll's team tried to get a juror who admitted to listening to Tim Pool off the jury panel because of his politics for a case that's not political at all. So E. Jean Carroll is now acknowledging openly on CNN that she helped pass the law that was the subject of this lawsuit, allowed her to file a claim in the first place.
Can I end on something that I think is really important in all of this? And it's the fact that New York passed this law, the Adult Survivors Act. They passed it just a few years ago. Were it not for that law, you never would have been able to bring this case. And I just think it speaks to the importance for a lot of other survivors.
Exactly. I would never have this window, this year of having the ability to bring a lawsuit for rape. Robbie can explain it better.
Well, E. Jean actually helped to get that law passed. It passed last year. We filed, it was Thanksgiving Day, it was the first day you could sue. We filed just after midnight on Thanksgiving. And
she filed it the day after the law was passed. They were there waiting at the gates, salivating to get into court. And it wouldn't have happened, apparently, without E. Jean. She had helped to get it passed. And we're asking ourselves, why is this a legitimate law if it feels like it was passed only to enable specific litigation against disfavored individuals in this country? It's not specifically targeting Donald Trump, but if you go back through the legislative history and you take a look at the basis for this, where did it come from and why was it so conveniently timed and exploited by Roberta Kaplan and E. Jean Carroll and everybody else who was involved in this? Seems very, very convenient.
And on something that I think is really important in all of this, and it's the fact that New York passed this law, the Adult Survivors Act. They passed it just a few years ago. Were it not for that law, you never would have been able to bring this case. And I just think it speaks to the importance for a lot of other survivors.
Exactly. I would never have this window, this year of having the ability to bring a lawsuit for rape. Robbie can explain it better.
well, E. Jean actually helped to get that law passed.
Yeah, so she
it
could
passed
file a
last
claim.
year. We filed, it was Thanksgiving Day, it was the first day you could sue. We filed just after midnight on Thanksgiving.
These people, they had a whole plot. They were working together. Remember that if you recall, E. Jean Carroll got the idea to file this lawsuit after she met with George Conway at a podcaster's party called Molly Jongfest, said, hey, I'm not going to sue Trump. Met with Conway. He convinced her to do it. He said, I've got a great lawyer for you. Roberta Kaplan. Gave her over to Roberta Kaplan. Whole thing was funded by Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is the billionaire co-founder of LinkedIn, somebody who joined in on this team secretly. We didn't find out until moments before trial that he was the person who was funding this for years. Remember, this claim was filed a long time ago, but trial just went forward. And so you got to pay for all the lawyers. Who's funding the bills for all of this? Reid Hoffman was, but he didn't want to be disclosed, and he wasn't disclosed. In fact, during the deposition, Trump's team asked about it, and she conveniently forgot to disclose it. Reid Hoffman is somebody who supposedly, according to some of his statements in supporting this, was in favor of supporting victims of Trump's abuse. But in this case, we know there's a little distinction we have to be mindful of. Other stories came out that Reid Hoffman went and visited Epstein's island after Jeffrey Epstein had been convicted of his crimes, and his crimes created victims of abuse, the same type of abuse that people are hemming and hawing about, alleging that Trump did. So if all of these people are so caring about victims of abuse, why are they continually hanging out with other people who have committed crimes or supported abuse of victims? Let me give you one other example of this. We have Roberta Kaplan, who has supported other efforts. In one story, we know that Miss Kaplan actually helped Governor Andrew Cuomo. Miss Roberta Kaplan helped Andrew Cuomo when he was under attack smear a sexual harassment accuser. This is according to Donald Trump. Roberta Kaplan, Carroll's attorney, was forced out of her role at Time's Up after it was revealed that she advised the public smearing of a woman who accused former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of harassment. See how that works? So they're not fighters for women's rights and victims of women's victims. They're fighters of Donald Trump. And it couldn't be more obvious, especially when she says now that she just totally forgot to disclose this relationship.
Another thing that he and his lawyers have often spoken about is the lack of disclosure about a big Democratic donor funding part of this case. Was there a reason it wasn't disclosed, and did you view this as political in any way?
No, I just completely forgot that he even existed.
In your deposition?
Yes, in my deposition.
Because Trump lawyers have called that, Roberta, a sign of bias. It raises questions about the motives of bringing this case, and I wonder what the reaction is.
So every single witness, every one of those 11 witnesses who testified in this case, testified under oath and told the truth, not because they don't like Trump, but because it was the truth. That's what this case was about. Who was telling the truth? The jury decided that E. Jean was telling the truth. And there may be witnesses who don't like Trump. There may have been jurors, as Joe Tacopina said in his opening, who don't like Trump. But that process was about the truth under the law, and that's what the jury found.
I wonder what her cut of the verdict is. It's going to be a pretty nice cut, so she's also pretty happy about that. And a nice cut of a $5 million verdict, you know, some of these judgments, you're talking tens and tens of percentages off that part, especially when they go to litigation. So she's having a pretty happy day about it too. And any questions about bias? Well, no, I mean, she didn't even address the bias portion of this. I mean, maybe biased as hell. She just ignored that entire line of questioning and just said, well, they still told the truth. Regardless of their like or dislike of Trump, they still got up on the witness stand and they were still honest about it. Their bias didn't pull them one way or another, if you believe that. So not answering the question at all. But of course, they say it's not political. They say it is about women's rights, even though, as we saw, Roberta Kaplan helped Andrew Cuomo smear another person allegedly who was abused by him. And we know that Reid Hoffman was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted. So a bunch of people who are involved in this case don't seem like they are all that interested in consistency in that stance. And to make it even worse, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer tried to remove a juror who listened to Tim Pool. They said he's an extremist and a right-winger. Juror 77, who ultimately was not removed, you see the juror put their number here on the final verdict form, was the subject of a filing that is now unsealed since the case is over. And they wanted him gone. This motion was filed in the case against Donald Trump, brought by E. Jean Carroll. You see, this is the motion to excuse juror number 77, submitted by Roberta Kaplan. What cause could there be? Oh no, Tim Pool. Here's what they say. They wrote a lot of paper on this. That's how upset they are about Tim Pool. They say, in light of our voir dire of juror number 77, this is meaning we ask questions of this juror, It is clear that he is biased in ways requiring his dismissal from the jury. The inference of bias arises in part from the fact that juror number 77 has only a single choice of news: an extreme right-wing podcaster who consistently and aggressively, unreservedly espouses highly prejudicial views on social and political issues directly implicated by this case. Juror number 77 otherwise obtains his news only through sources just like that podcast, and does so pursuant to an algorithm notorious for promoting extreme content. Most significantly, juror number 77 has described Poole's podcast as independent, middle, and balanced. A juror which is just obviously not true. Obviously. And if you want evidence of this, well, I found something about Tim. Mostly peaceful memes clarified this one for us. If Tim Poole isn't a Nazi, then how do you explain this? Checkmate. Juror 77. Extremist. It's clear. And I think that's a Nazi guitar back there, too. I can tell. And you know how we can prove this? Tim is remaining silent. Where is he? Is he disavowing this claim? I don't think so. So, as you can see, they have a point. Game over, Tim. Busted. A juror who views Poole's podcast in that way as being independent may subjectively believe he has no relevant bias, but he just certainly confirmed that he does. No person capable of deciding this case fairly and impartially would seek out only Poole's content, rely on YouTube to promote other content based on Poole's podcast, and maintain that Poole's commentary is in the middle and balanced. And under these circumstances, juror number 77 should be dismissed from this jury. These people are nuts. So the voir dire process affords them, they want to find fair jurors. They say juror 77 did not answer any of these questions in the affirmative. He thus denied having opinions. It's going to be difficult for him to be fair and impartial. He says the following: he became aware of public news reports. So they're very upset with Tim, and they wrote all of this about it. Okay, so you can go through it at your leisure if you want to listen to what an extremist Nazi Tim Poole's podcast is. But I just wanted to share this with you because this is what we're talking about. Okay, this is the political nature of this. Here, they're getting their summaries from Media Matters. Support for right-wing extremist groups. Many of the individuals Poole's invites on, according to Media Matters, are extremists, bigots, and conspiracy theorists. Who is the source of this? Garbage Media Matters. Sometimes they're all three, they write, and they reference this. And I would imagine the judge is sitting there going, wow, this is crazy. This guy's a monster. I can't even believe he has these people on. They're all three at the same time? You're telling me Tim has bigoted extremist conspiracy theorists on the same show and the same guests? That's outstanding. If you haven't already subscribed to him, where can you find that? That's a 3-for-1 deal, baby. Make sure you go over and subscribe to his channel. The New Yorker has similarly noted that Poole uses his media platform to amplify the far-right extremists. And others are summarizing this. He's also, wow, look at this. Did you know that Jack Posobiec is a neo-Nazi collaborator? Wow. He's also a Nazi. There's a lot of, I told you, Tim. See? Where's the Posobiec salute to? They're all busted now. He posted one video about all of these people, and they're embracing Donald Trump, various extremist groups. And so therefore, Juror 77 is biased. And now, my friends, I know this is kind of insane, and I know we can laugh and mock this, but this is disgusting stuff, right? It really is disgusting. Okay, Tim Pool has already been made the subject of a lot of other scrutiny this week. I saw headlines they're blaming him for another neo-Nazi alleged shooting from apparently a Hispanic person who was a white supremacist in Texas. And now he is the subject of disqualifying jurors. So if you say, I listen to Tim Pool, or I listen to Dan Bongino, or I listen to Watching the Watchers or anybody else, you're disqualified as a juror, and you're going to have a team making 24-page arguments that you are an extremist, borderline neo-Nazi because of the people you listen to, and that you're disqualified from American civic duties, American civil service in the form of being a juror. You're disqualified. And Roberta Kaplan wrote this. E. Jean Carroll's lawyer wrote this because they want to castigate an entire side of the aisle. If you listen to somebody they think is illegitimate, they're going to reference their own illegitimate organizations called Media Matters, and then write it to a judge who probably reads Media Matters, and then get the judge to issue rulings and make verdicts based upon this type of argument. Now, in this case, this juror remained on. The judge didn't buy it in this case, said this is probably a little bit far out there. But the point is, they're making these arguments, and they're spending 24 pages doing it, because this is not about victims of Donald Trump. It's not about restoring women to be compensated as a result of abuse. It's about eliminating Donald Trump, and it's about taking out commentators and content creators and other people who are out there speaking truth. If you listen to them, we can't allow you to hear their truth, and you have to be thrown off the juries. Otherwise, we might lose. Completely disgusting behavior, but now it's on full display now that the trial is over. And E. Jean Carroll, it all is becoming clear. This was absolutely political. They wanted to take out Trump. He's not going to allow it. He'll be appealing it. We'll see where it goes. All right. And Mike Pence also had something to say about this. He got asked about his opinion on the verdict, and here's what he said.
Well, I think that's a question for the American people, but I really can't comment on a judgment in a civil case. I have no knowledge of those matters, and I'm sure the president will defend himself in that matter. And but it strikes me that it's just one more instance where, at a time when American families are struggling, when our economy is hurting, when the world seems to become a more dangerous place almost every day, that it's just one more story focusing on my former running mate that I know is a great fascination to members of the national media, but I just don't think it's where the American people are focused.
All right, so Mike Pence doesn't say much on it, not dunking on him, but just kind of leaving it there. And so that is Donald Trump promising an appeal, and we'll be looking forward to it. Now, the one segment that I wanted, that we had trouble with the article, which I was able to dig up as Pence was speaking, was this article. Trump's campaign issued a statement rebutting all of E. Jean Carroll's claims and many of the claims that we hear in the media. They posted this. They said the Democratic Party's never-ending witch hunt hit a new low today. Make no mistake, the entire bogus case will be appealed, and it's being brought only because Trump is the front runner. Now, here are the specific points that they are pushing back on after the verdict. They say, the E. Jean Carroll case is part of the Democrats' vast campaign against Trump. Trump is dominating the polls against Joe Biden, and all Republican primary challengers were winning, and the Trump haters are panicking. The Carroll case was orchestrated and funded by the biggest Trump-hating Democrats in the country. We named Reid Hoffman here. And we know that other people on the plaintiff's witness list who testified at trial said things like Trump is herpes and so on. It was a huge group of people who have a lot of animosity and political bias against Trump. Trump says President Trump has never had any kind of relationship with E. Jean Carroll. They say voter registration of the jury pool for this case favors Democrats by 7-to-1 ratio over Republicans. And if you want to look into those numbers, they've got a link for you here. New York City voter registration data. They say E. Jean Carroll hired the disgraced hypocrite known as Roberta Kaplan to lead her frivolous lawsuit at the urging of Trump hater George Conway. Kaplan, who represented E. Jean Carroll, resigned in disgrace from an organization called Time's Up after it was learned that she was helping Governor Andrew Cuomo, who we know resigned, after facing sexual harassment accusations. Kaplan, the lawyer for Carroll, was forced out of her role. This is according to the New York Times, leading the activist group after it was revealed that she advised the public smearing of a woman who accused the former governor of harassment. They infer, therefore, that this is not about helping women get justice. Why else would they smear that woman? But to stop her from getting justice. So they say her motives for taking this case are purely political. They write, Carroll testified that only after speaking with notorious Trump hater George Conway did she consider suing the president. Washington Examiner quoted this. Tacopina played a part of Carroll's taped deposition from October, in which she recalled her response of no, when people asked her in 2019 if she planned to sue Trump. She said it wasn't until she spoke to Conway, quote, who knew the ins and outs of this, and she decided then to consider suing Trump. She testified, before that, you had no intention of suing Trump? Carroll contended that was correct, saying only after speaking with Conway, she met with a lawyer he recommended and that he was aware of at the time of Conway's anti-Trump disposition. They knew that all of these people were anti-Trump. They say the case was funded by Democrat mega donor and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, somebody we've talked a lot about here. Reid Hoffman, according to Puck News, said, I'll do whatever it takes to defeat Donald Trump. Hoffman made the largest contribution to the Biden-supporting Unite the Country super PAC when it was launched in late 2019. Free Beacon reported this in 2020. They say the Unite the Country PAC launched in October as Biden was posting low fundraising totals, brought in $4.2 million in Feb, its new records showed. Largest dono came in from Reid Hoffman, who previously apologized for, quote, helping to repair Epstein's reputation. See that? Reid Hoffman, who's funding this litigation, who cares about victims of abuse, was helping to repair Epstein's reputation? What? And for funding a pro-Democrat disinformation campaign in Alabama, according to the Free Beacon. Hoffman admitted to staying overnight at Epstein's Island in Little St. James. He told the Journal he only once visited Epstein's Island's residence, Little St. James, for an MIT fundraising trip. He said he regrets ever meeting with Epstein, and his last interaction with Epstein was in 2015. It gnaws at me that by lending my association, I helped his reputation and thus delayed justice for his survivors, Mr. Hoffman said in an email. I helped his reputation. Do you think he's going to help Donald Trump's reputation? No. Well, what's the difference here? I don't know. He said he met with Epstein to discuss science projects at universities. Yeah, science projects like little bubbling volcanoes and chemistry experiments. Wow, it turns blue. That's crazy. While I relied on MIT's endorsements, ultimately I made the mistake, he said. I'm sorry for my personal judgment. But he's going to make up for it. Going to get back into good graces by taking out Trump. He continues saying, neither Carroll nor anyone else offered as a witness in the trial could remember the year in the event where this took place. She couldn't recall the date. When do you believe Trump assaulted you? She said, well, the question, the date has been something I've constantly been trying to pin down. No idea. And if you don't know the date, it's hard to defend against the charge. The judge who officiated, the Clinton-appointed judge, known as Judge Kaplan, who officiated the wedding of Carroll's co-counsel, excluded key evidence from the trial, namely the funding of the case by Hoffman and the supposed DNA evidence that Carroll claimed she has. Judge Kaplan officiated the wedding of Miss Carroll's attorney, Miss Crowley, another attorney on the case. The judge officiated the wedding. Oh, man. That's according to a document filed in a court on December 9th, 2022. Clinton-appointed Judge Lewis Kaplan, who officiated the wedding of Carroll's co-counsel, excluded key evidence of the trial. Amazing. Miss Carroll's story is very similar to a 2012 episode of Law & Order. In evidence, it was revealed that a 2012 Law & Order episode featured a storyline centering on an alleged attack in the dressing room at a Bergdorf Goodman. The episode aired several years after Carroll's allegations and several years prior to her making them and coming forward. There's an episode called Theater and Tricks. Individual talks about it. We played that clip here. According to the Carroll, the two were in the lingerie room, and she's aware of the episode, but denied ever watching it. So, strange situation here. You see very curious relationships between the judge, all sorts of other problems with the evidence. The case feels like it is corrupt at the start, just based upon the people who were involved in creating it and concocting the whole scheme. But it lands, and Donald Trump delivers the campaign statement and a nice rebuttal of all the other allegations and all of the other narratives you'll hear in the media. So that, my friends, is the update on Donald Trump. He promises an appeal, and of course, we will be here continuing to follow. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, so we're changing gears a little bit. Now we're turning our attention over to the Biden $10 million bombshell. We have coming up, House Republicans reveal new details that implicate the Biden crime family in receiving over $10 million in foreign money, funneled through a network of LLCs and other entities to cover up the transactions and the influence that the money purchased. We've got several items to review. One is the press conference that was done in person in Congress. We'll go through that and listen to that. We also have the press release that came out from James Comer, as well as a memo that details in over 30 pages the facts of exactly what happened here. And so before we watch some of the proceedings, let's jump into the actual press release. Published May 10th, Comer reveals new evidence in the Biden family's influence peddling schemes, saying that the House Oversight and Accountability Committee chairman released the bank records memorandum, which we will go through in more detail, that reveals new information about the investigation into the Biden family schemes. Oversight has got thousands of pages of financial records showing a complicated network of companies set up when Joe Biden was vice president. And the Biden family got millions from foreign sources. We've also got financial records showing how the Bidens use complicated transactions to hide payments from the foreign nationals, including the Chinese Communist Party linked associates, providing clear indications of influence peddling when he was vice president. Vice president, he was in office when all of this was happening. And so we have the press release that came out from Congress They were together. Here is what it sounded like from the Oversight Committee.
Since taking the gavel in January, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability has accelerated its investigation of the Biden family's domestic and international business practices that we began last Congress. I want to be clear. This committee is investigating President Biden and his family's shady business deals that capitalize on Joe Biden's public office and risked our country's national security. This committee has a duty to ask questions and pursue the facts, no matter where they take us. Through the committee's investigation, we intend to provide transparency to the American people and reach legislative solutions. In only 4 months since obtaining subpoena authority, we have made astonishing progress. Today, we'll talk about that progress.
Good,
First,
let's go.
we want to discuss information the committee has learned since our last press conference in November. New information investigators have uncovered regarding the transfer of money from foreign entities to the Biden family. Many of the wire payments occurred while Joe Biden was vice president and leading the United States efforts in these countries. First instance, while Vice President Biden was lecturing Romania on anti-corruption policies, in reality he was a walking billboard for his son and family to collect money. Hunter Biden and his associates capitalized on a lucrative financial relationship with a Romanian national who was under investigation for and later convicted of corruption in Romania. The Bidens received over $1 million for the deal.
Nice.
And 16 of the 17 payments to their associates' account that funneled the Biden's money occurred while Joe Biden was vice president.
Perfect. Good.
In fact, the money stops flowing from the Romanian national soon after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency.
We saw that same pattern with Hillary Clinton. Remember the Clinton Foundation, how much money they were getting when Hillary was running? We saw the numbers. It was like hundreds of millions of dollars. And go, what the heck? Where is that money going? And then suddenly after she lost, what they get like the next year was like $7 million. And the year prior was like 200 million because they thought she was going to win. Isn't it funny how that works?
This is a pattern of influence peddling. This appears separate from any payment Hunter received from his work connecting this individual to a U.S. law firm. We'll also provide further information regarding the Biden's relationship with China. This includes 2 individuals the committee is particularly concerned about. One of them, Xi Jinping, had close ties to the highest levels of the Chinese Communist Party and operated a multi-billion-dollar energy company with access to large sums of money. We'll discuss how the Bidens received millions of dollars from this individual through the use of shell companies and wire transfers. In March, the committee released its first bank records memorandum that showed a Biden associate, Rob Walker, used his company to funnel money from the Chinese to various Biden family members.
Bagman.
Democrats dismissed the evidence, even though it was based on bank records directly from the bank. The Democrats...
They only care about George Santos and his bank records and monitoring his transactions across state lines. We have a video coming out on George Santos later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. But there is a very interesting thing that has happened today. While the House committee is unveiling these charges, we know that the Democrats and the DOJ have pulled this card out they've been keeping behind their backs for some time. And they just say, oh, Santos, perfect. Soon as Biden is getting his nose rubbed in it, we're going to distract the entire media and show you something else and take the eye off this ball. And so the Republicans are now having to work against a media in addition to having to convince the DOJ. There's a cover story that's being run essentially by the DOJ to take the eye off the main prize here.
On the Oversight Committee received the same records as the Republicans, and they were able to verify the information. Democrats said all the bank records showed were Papa John's and Starbucks receipts. They deliberately chose to misconstrue and deny what was clearly in front of them. Hunter Biden's representatives claimed the money was, quote, good faith seed funds, but could not explain why those funds had to go through an intermediary in what appears to be an attempt to hide the transfers from the Chinese. They also couldn't explain why the Bidens received over $1 million in 16 different wire transfers.
That's a lot of pizza.
Over a period of 3 months to at least 5 different banks.
That's a lot of little
The president,
small
when
items.
confronted with this information, said it wasn't true. Instead of being honest with the American people, President Biden has claimed since the 2020 election that his family has not received money from China. That was a lie in 2020, and he continues to lie to the American people now. The Bidens have received millions of dollars from China. It is inconceivable that the president...
What is their business? What is the business that they are sending invoices on behalf of in order to get that money?
did not know it. The White House refuses to correct the president's statements, showing the president is now using the federal government to run interference for his families and his own role in these schemes. Now I want to say a few remarks about the developments last week. A week ago, I sent a subpoena to the FBI for a form that a whistleblower has alleged is in the FBI's possession. We hope the FBI will be transparent and forthcoming and provide the Oversight Committee with the 1023 form we have subpoenaed. If they do, the committee will assess the form it has subpoenaed from the FBI, and has been my practice. We will report to you only facts when they are verified and indisputable.
And we talked about this form. Apparently, there's a whistleblower who came over to the DOJ and said, I've got information to reveal to you. Sat down, it was recorded with the FBI, rather, documented, and then nothing was done with that information. So then he turned around, went over to Congress and said, hey, I gave them a bunch of information. They're not doing anything with it. I know there should be a record of our meeting because I was there. It was being documented. So tell them to give you the document so you can see that I did disclose it to them. I did blow the whistle, and they didn't do anything about it.
This committee will not pursue witch hunts or string the American people along for years with false promises of evidence that is beyond circumstantial evidence, as Representative Adam Schiff and the Democrats did for years.
I hope that's true.
I trust the whistleblower. A subpoena from this committee is a powerful tool that I do not take lightly. The level of detail provided to Senator Grassley led me to conclude a subpoena was warranted, and I stand by that assessment. I will say this. When Senator Grassley approached me with the information the whistleblower provided, it was because of the information we've learned through this committee's own investigation that indicated to me the whistleblower's allegations are consistent with our independent findings. Those findings are what I called you here today to discuss.
All right, perfect.
The committee has reviewed thousands of bank records from individuals and companies affiliated with the Bidens and their associates. It has received these bank records pursuant to 4 subpoenas I've issued to different banks. These were targeted and specific subpoenas, and each was different based on the information we believed the banks possessed. Every one of those subpoenas returned valuable information that had been unreported and that contributed to this committee's understanding of how the Bidens conducted their businesses. The committee is concerned by the complicated, suspicious network of over 20 companies we have identified the Bidens and their associates used to enrich themselves.
What are all of those companies
Most of these
for?
companies were limited liability companies
Weird.
formed during Joe Biden's vice presidency.
Huh.
The bank records show the Biden family, their associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies.
That's a lot of
Some of
crap.
that money came from a Chinese company
lot.
and went to Hunter Biden's company. Other transfers occurred with the help of Rob Walker, who then sent it on to different Biden family members. This is not how lawful businesses operate. Chinese nationals affiliated with the Bidens created limited liability companies in the United States, and then in a short period of time transferred their interest to a Chinese company that sent money to the Bidens.
Yeah, we have talked about this one many times. This has already been uncovered. I think this evidence was already out there. It's good that they're confirming this, but we knew a lot of these relationships were going on. This was the deal in the Congo where the Chinese and a Hunter Biden LLC went in on it. One entity couldn't own something like 80% of all of the mining rights. And so Congo said, all right, we're going to keep 20. China, you get 40. Hunter, you get 40. And so they said, okay, great. Nobody has a majority share. Hunter, you don't have a majority. China, you don't have a majority. They did the deal. Then Hunter exited out immediately, sold China his 40%. China gave him a kickback, and the whole thing was a giant scam. All of it being done under the umbrella of Daddy Vice President.
This is not normal. Hunter Biden and his associates courted business in countries that correlated directly with Joe Biden's work as vice president. This is also not normal. It is not ethical. And this is why we need legislative solutions. Our purpose here is to provide legislative solutions to prevent this unethical behavior from ever happening again. This investigation is about investigating allegations of corruption and fraud at the highest levels of the federal government. This should be a bipartisan issue. This committee is considering legislation that would ensure these sorts of business practices do not continue for Democrats or Republicans. Specifically, the committee is crafting legislative solutions aimed at deficiencies it has identified in ethics laws and disclosure laws for immediate family members of Vice President and the President. These deficiencies potentially place American national security and American interest at risk. Additionally, the committee is considering legislation that would strengthen reporting requirements related to certain foreign transactions involving senior elected officials' family members. Finally, the committee is evaluating the Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering laws to determine whether financial institutions have the available tools and support from federal agencies to thwart illegal money laundering and foreign corruption activity.
Let's pause here for a moment. Congress is talking about now legislative efforts, things that they can do to stop this from happening again, because they're Congress. They can't actually open up a criminal prosecution of Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. That has to be done by the DOJ, the Department of Justice, by the executive branch. Congress can inquire and they can pass legislation and they can move money around, but by design, we have a system of checks and balances. We have one system, the legislative branch, that makes the law, and another branch that enforces the law. That is the executive branch. And so enforcement has to come from the executive branch. There's a big problem with that when the leader of the executive branch is the person who is the subject of the accusations, in this case, using the office to exploit the office for your own personal gain. So what do? Congress really has no choice but to make this about legislative reform, even if that's not exactly true, right? They might ultimately pass legislative reform, and that would be great to stop this from happening again. But the big purpose of this is to expose this, is to lay it all out for us to see, so that the American people will demand the DOJ do something about it, hoping that maybe at some point they will.
As I said, I'm very pleased with the progress the committee is making in this investigation. However, due to the information we're releasing today and further developments the committee is aware of, the investigation will enter a new phase now that is armed with information obtained in the bank records. I will soon issue a new round of subpoenas to banks for specific targeted information.
All right.
I will also provide one more opportunity for certain Biden associates, including his art gallerist and Rob Walker, to cooperate willingly with this investigation. Finally, I'm publicly releasing the second.
We want to know who bought those paintings and how much they bought those paintings for and where that money went.
Bank accounts memorandum to the American people so they can see for themselves the activities the Biden family is engaged in, despite the president's statements to the contrary. I want to thank the people and financial institutions that have cooperated with this investigation so far. I also want to encourage more people to come forward and let them know that their information will be kept private and confidential. To my Democrat colleagues, I want to say that this investigation will continue to move forward. Do you want to continue covering up the Biden's influence peddling schemes when the evidence is being placed right in front of you? With or without Democrat support, we will continue working to deliver the answers, transparency, and accountability that the American people deserve.
Right on.
I now turn to Andy Biggs, who will provide some information.
Andy Biggs from Arizona, making his way to the podium.
Thank you, Chairman Comer. We appreciate your leadership on this very, very significant issue to the direction of this country, and we appreciate your leadership and appreciate my colleagues who are here today, and also the great staff that has done such incredible work on behalf of this committee in reviewing these records and helping us to obtain them. Thank you. And thank you to those of you who are here from the media today. So when we talk about the Biden family and associates, I think it's important for the American people to understand what we mean when we're talking about these associates. What are we really getting at?
Who are they?
First, they use them as vehicles to move money directly into Biden family accounts. Why is that?
So
It's because
Biden
they were
doesn't get
looking to
implicated.
obfuscate and hide where the money was coming from. For example, the Bidens used their associate Rob Walker to bring in millions of dollars from China and Romania. Walker's limited liability company, Robinson Walker LLC, paid Hunter, James, Hallie, and others in the Biden network more than $2 million
Whoa.
after foreign money hit his account.
Whoa, what for?
1/3 to the Bidens. That was the pattern. For example, on March 1st, 2017, only 2 months after Joe Biden left office, Robinson Walker received a $3 million wire
For what?
from State Energy HK Limited, a Chinese entity. The next day, 1/3 of that money, $1,065,000, went to the bank account in Abu Dhabi of the company EEIG, which was controlled by James Gilliatt, another Biden associate.
Yeah, so they've got
Over the next 3 months,
associates.
Robinson Walker LLC sent 16 incremental payments to over 5 different Biden accounts totaling $1,065,692. This included payments to James Biden, who received 5 wires and over $50,000, who did no discernible work to earn that money. 1/3 to Gilliard, 1/3 to the Bidens. What was State Energy HK Limited? That is a second class of Biden associates, the people from whom the Bidens conducted business. State Energy HK Limited was a company controlled by Yi Jianming. Yi was a Chinese billionaire who was reportedly the former Deputy Secretary Counsel for an international outreach arm for the People's Liberation Army. It's called the China Association for International Friendly Contact. According to a U.S. agency, that organization is a platform for deploying undercover intelligence gatherers.
Nice.
Chairman Yi started an energy company called CEFC.
Yeah, we talked about that
China.
one here. Marco Polo's got
He
this
explained in a speech to the committee that the committee has obtained and translated into English that CEFC China's vision is very simple. It is to obtain overseas resources and serve the national strategy.
one. Like in the Congo.
Not U.S. national strategy, Chinese national strategy. And Chinese national strategy is Chinese Communist Party's strategy. Yi was close to Chinese President Xi Jinping and welcomed at least one foreign president to Beijing with Xi. The DOJ has referenced Yi and CEFC in a scheme bribing African leaders. The other Chinese national I'll mention now is Gong Wendong, who did work for Yi in America. When Yi needed to do business in America, he often looked to Gong Wendong. The amount of money Yi was sending to Gong Wendong was staggering. From June through August of 2017 alone, Yi transferred to Gong Wendong in America more than $130 million.
Whoa!
Yi met with Hunter Biden in February 2017 and gave him a diamond reportedly worth tens of thousands of dollars as a gift. In August of 2017, Yi, through Gong Wendong, opened up a business with Hunter and James Biden called Hudson West 3, based here in Washington,
The third
D.C.
one?
And Hunter wanted to get Joe Biden's keys to the office, and they could all share office space together,
Isn't that
according
nice?
to an email verified by the Washington Post.
Hanging out with Dad.
But things didn't go as planned because the Chinese detained Yi in March of 2018 for fraud. In an email to Gong Wendong and another associate, Hunter tried to explain away the last year of doing business together. This is an email that has also been verified by the Washington Post. Hunter wrote, and I quote, "I am not in a joint venture with CEFC. I'm not partners with CEFC, and I'm not employed nor funded by CEFC." Close quote. But Hunter was funded by CEFC, as Ms. Mace will explain. I'm extremely concerned about the president's connections to these individuals he was supposedly meant to share office space with, and is denied knowing anything about these transactions and these business dealings, and also is denied receiving any money for himself or his family from Chinese connections.
He's repeatedly said that.
That has been proven to be a lie. And I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaks. Next, we'll have Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, for your leadership. In less than 100 days of subpoena power, this has been one of the most in-depth investigations the House Oversight Committee has ever had in recent history. And I would hope that the media here today would put as much attention and interest and focus on this as they have a former president. For years, the left has said,
no, we've got Santos now. Sorry, Ms. Mace.
no one is above the law. Well, put your money where your mouth is and prove that, because the American people do not trust the federal government. They don't trust Congress. They don't even trust current presidents because of the kind of possible and alleged corruption that we see at every level of government, and no one is ever held to account. I try to call the balls and strikes regardless of whether or not you have an R or a D by your name. I've been accused, all of us have been, over this particular issue that we're conspiracy theorists. We're not. What we're proving to you today is showing you actual bank records, actual evidence of shell companies and businesses. There are more businesses and more Bidens involved than we knew of. You have to issue more subpoenas because every time we turn over a rock, there's more information. There's more possible corruption. There's more possible allegations that need to be investigated.
We're going to go through the memo in a minute.
This is what we know today. Money flowed from the Chinese Communist Party, aligned with individuals into American shell companies. And then that money was wired and transferred to Biden family members. This could be the most corrupt scheme in American politics, where a sitting vice president, where we saw members of his family, 9 members so far, there may be more, that were enriched from countries all over the world. And we're providing more information about Romania today. We know about China. We know that the president denied this during an election in 2020, continues to deny it to this day. And we want everyone held accountable if they have violated their oath of office. We shouldn't have folks that are in office that are betraying their oath of office. We shouldn't have people in office that are betraying their country. If they're paying loads of cash to their family members from adversaries of ours around the world, it's wrong, whether you have a Republican or a Democrat by your name. And we saw evidence of intentionally taking steps to hide the sources of money coming directly from China through a series of financial gymnastics. Joe Biden's political career was winding down at the time, and this was one of the Biden family's last chances to cash in on the name.
They got
We
it.
have evidence of Chairman Yi
frenzy.
Jinping, who is believed to be affiliated with Chinese Communist Party intelligence organizations and has even been accused of gathering intel for Communist China. Yi started CEFC in China. His agent in America, Gong Wendong, which Andy Biggs mentioned earlier, formed CEFC Infrastructure Investment US on May 11th, 2017. On May 18th of 2017, Dong used one of his Chinese companies, Shanghuaxin, to fund CEFC infrastructure in an attempt to hide the source of the money. And you see this pattern repeated over and over and over again. On June 30th, 2017, Shanghai Huaxin sent $10 million from China to CEFC infrastructure. Then on August 4th, 2017, CEFC infrastructure wired $100,000 directly to Hunter Biden's own corporation, Owasco PC. Hunter's Owasco also received $500,000 from another entity affiliated with Yi, State Energy HK Limited. State Energy HK appears to be part of Yi's personal slush fund to potentially commit bribery and launder money. The Chinese Communist Party affiliated entities may have bought influence with the Bidens that they couldn't get otherwise, and obviously for good reason. These alleged layering schemes are repetitive. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to do it. And they did it multiple times all over the world. If it looks complicated and sounds complicated, it was intentionally made to be complicated so you could not follow the money. And what we're trying to do today is show you how to follow the money.
We'll
The
go
Committee
through it.
of Oversight, we need to pursue the Chinese relationship with the Serbian politician Vuk Jeremic, who first attempted to introduce Yi to the Bidens in 2015. From August 2015 to June of 2016, State Energy HK paid Jeremic's company $3 million.
Nice.
When Jeremic ran for UN Security General, who did he turn to? It appears he turned to Hunter Biden. On June
Oh.
16, 2016, Jeremic wrote to Hunter asking if he could meet with the Vice President's National Security Advisor, Colin Kahl, related to the elections for UN Security General. The meeting appears to have happened because on July 2nd, 2016, Jeremic informed Hunter that my meeting, quote, with Colin did not last very long, but it didn't go too bad, I think. What is suboptimal is that the Office of the Vice President seems to be outside the decision-making loop on the UN Security General elections issue. These people didn't come to Hunter Biden because he understood world politics or that he was experienced in it or that he understood Chinese businesses. They
No.
wanted him for the access his last name gave them.
Daddy
Access to the
VP.
Chinese Communist Party they couldn't otherwise get. In March of 2017, the same Chinese company that sent $3 million to Vuk Jeremic sent $3 million to one of Biden's associates, who siphoned off 30%. As Annie Biggs mentioned, we see that repeated over and over again. Siphoned off 30% or $1 million to Hunter Biden, James Biden, Hallie Biden. Why she would
Why
need that?
Hallie?
And an unknown Biden bank account. The committee has written to Vuk Jeremic and Rob Walker, but they have both
what?
refused to cooperate with the Oversight Committee. The Biden family needs to answer for this, and the DOJ needs to get off its ass and investigate.
Yeah,
We've
baby.
done the work for them so that they can't screw it up now. If these
You hear that, Merrick Garland? Get off your ass.
allegations, any of these allegations are proven true, then someone with the last name Biden needs to be charged, prosecuted, and maybe spend a little time in prison to take to account and responsible for the actions they've taken today. Also, as mentioned by the chairman, I want to thank you. The legislative priorities we have of our committee, this is not a witch hunt. This is not a conspiracy theory. If there are anti-corruption laws that need to be made stronger, we will also do that. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nice.
Representative Armstrong.
Nancy Mace coming in hot. All right, we're going to fast forward over to, we're going to go over to Byron Donalds, and then we'll wrap up with Jim Jordan, and then we'll hop into the memo.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Next we have.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for being here, everybody. Look, a couple things. First, what we're seeing here, what we're witnessing with the Biden family, frankly, is just a web of concealment, of deception. A lot of people would say corruption. But let's be very clear. You have this many companies involved, this velocity of transactions, size of transactions. Like my colleagues have said, this is not how normal businesses operate. I had the ability with Chairman Comer and other members of the committee to go over to the Treasury building and review documents. And having read those documents, one thing became pretty crystal clear, that there were many people who had serious questions about the transactions and about the velocity of these transactions, and they either get very, very, very deep into concealment, hiding money, shifting money, and for the purpose, we don't know, because one thing everybody in this room and the American people definitely know is that the Biden family doesn't really have a business.
Right.
There is no business structure around this family.
What do they do?
Except politics. And since Joe Biden has spent decades in the Senate, served 8 years as vice president, and is now president of the United States, and the family's getting money from various countries and foreign businesses through various shell companies and this web of LLCs. I mean, guys, you in the press, this is easy pickings. I'm giving you Pulitzer stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, all you have to do is literally look at our
something.
memo and see the level of detail upon which they have created this. And it's very, very frustrating. We have now been able to clearly see that the Biden's associates, like Rob Walker, Eric Sherman, has been discussed, created at least 16 companies while Joe Biden was vice president of the United States. 16 companies created while he was vice president. Now the list is 20, and as we continue our investigation, that list is growing. And like I said before, the question is to serve what purpose?
Right.
And the purpose of all these companies being created is to conceal money that the Biden family has been gaining because Joe Biden has been sitting at the upper echelon of our politics for almost 5 decades. That is the entire purpose here. Here's an example of what I mean. You have Rosemont Seneca Partners, Rosemont Seneca Advisors, Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, RSP Holdings, RSTP2 Alpha, RSTP2 Bravo, Rosemont Seneca Thornton, Rosemont Seneca Bohai. I want to make sure I pronounce it right. Bohai, Bohai.
All permutations.
And the list goes on and on. Cycling through this many companies serves no legitimate purpose.
They're just shells. They just needed to move things around and layer things with different owners and different setups, so you couldn't really track what was going where. And you open up bank accounts and you move things around and you send it to this address and move it to that address. And it's hard to track it all. Now, it's okay if you want to start 20 companies in a year. A lot of people will do that, but they'll hire people and they will have different operations. They'll put a different website up and they'll have a use for it. They're not just going to create it with a bunch of different names. It's like these guys just put a bunch of names in a hat and drew a couple out. All right, pick 3. Hunty, Biden, Poo-Poo Head. Okay, that's company 2. Hunty, and you just draw them out of the head. And you have no idea what comes out. They just made them because that's the only purpose was concealment.
And as somebody who actually worked in banking, I did that long before I came here. Whenever there was like this many companies just laying all over the place, and you see wire transfers and cashier checks over here going to random members of the family for no apparent purpose at the size and velocity at which all of this was being conducted, the only logical conclusion of a financial professional is you are concealing money. Let me restate this. You are concealing money from either the IRS or from credit agencies or from other people in general. That's the only reason you set up a structure like this. Some of these companies were connected to Hunter's personal professional company, Oswego, or Skinny Atlas, Scale Atlas, however you want to pronounce it. And the list goes on. And Mr. Biggs, he talked about Hudson West 3 and some of those other issues that were going on as well. One thing I want to make sure is that all of this has happened and Joe Biden is aware. Nobody in this room can logically sit here and say that the president of the United States had no idea that these companies were being formed while he was vice president of the United States.
Yeah, and he didn't have dementia back then, mostly.
I will add you, he was probably in better mental shape then
yes.
than he is today.
See?
You know, I'll throw that out there. And so what this committee is going to continue to do is pursue this investigation. We are going to continue to document, and we're going to provide that information to all of you in the press. So to help you, and frankly, you know, like Congresswoman May said, and probably help the DOJ along with their investigation. One quick note, it's interesting that the Department of Justice has been investigating Hunter Biden for quite some time, and we seem to just never really get anywhere. And so I think that's also interesting as well. I wonder what's going on at the Department of Justice.
Oh, we know. They're busy investigating Donald Trump, the insurrectionists, and covering up for Joe Biden by prosecuting Santos.
That being said, the bottom line is there is no real business here. None. And let me also say this, because I know there are many in this room who wanted to go down all the various schemes that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle accused the former president of. Be very clear. The former president actually had a business.
Right.
Very big business. You could say it was his name. You could say it was his buildings.
Hotels.
You could say it was wine. You could say it was branding.
Licensing.
You could say it was The Apprentice. But he had a very big and legitimate business, which everybody in this room clearly knows and understands and can point to
Watch
and say,
the show.
That's the thing. That thing over
Into
there.
a hotel.
Joe Biden has no business.
Nothing.
Except his position in politics.
And Hunter has far less. I mean, he's got finger paints now, but didn't before then.
And it is the requirement
drug dealing, maybe,
of this committee to investigate that. We're going to continue to do that, and we're going to let the facts speak for themselves. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well done, Byron Donalds. Woo! Nicely done. Jim Jordan.
Suspicious activity reports. The key word in that phrase is the word suspicious. There are 170 of those reports, many of them put together by the Treasury Department of our government in the Obama-Biden administration. So 170 of those that the committee has reviewed, thousands of pages of bank records the committee has reviewed, And that has told us that there are now multiple, as Mr. Donald just said, multiple LLCs receiving money from foreign entities and paying that money out to multiple members of the Biden family.
For what reason?
And the fundamental question is the one Byron just raised. For what?
No idea.
What did they do? What was the business? What service did they provide? What value did they add? What did they do to warrant receipt of the money? That is the fundamental question, and no one seems to have an answer to that fundamental question.
Biden insight. Hunter Biden's the smartest man Joe Biden knows. He knows about energy policy. He's like Elon Musk without the rocket ships and Tesla. You bring him into a country, you're like, Hunter, we have a question about how to get more energy into our country in Ukraine. He's like, I know just the solution. I need $83,000 a month to do it. They said, okay, I guess you're going to fix everything. I guess that. Consulting fees?
But Mr. Comer, Chairman Comer and the team, that's what we're looking into, trying to get. And I would just say this too, why not just come clean? Why not just be honest with us? Why not tell us the truth? But I would say this, I think
because they'll get impeached and they'll probably go to jail. I mean, that's why.
It's a pattern with this administration. They haven't been square with us, straight with the American people about anything. They tell us the border is secure. We know it isn't. They tell us our debt ceiling bill is going to hurt veterans. No, it doesn't. Joe Biden said during the campaign that the letter from 51 former intel officials, when he used it in the debate, he portrayed it as if it was organic. And we now know through another investigation that we're all working on that, in fact, it was coordinated. That letter from 51 former intel officials was coordinated with the Biden campaign. So much so, the Biden campaign told Mike Morrell, here's the journalist we want you to have the story to, the letter to first.
Anthony Blinken, who's the current Secretary of State right now, earned his job, earned his position by being Biden's good little lapdog, took this idea over to CIA, former CIA Director Michael Morrell, told him, create this little scheme, draft the letter. He sent it over to John Brennan and 49 other non-intelligent people who signed the letter, and they did it based on Mike Morrell's statement that they wanted to give Joe Biden a talking point for the debate. And Joe Biden used the talking point, even though the whole thing was illegitimate.
Why not just be straight with us? Why not come clean?
Because they're
liars. Why
liars,
not tell
Jim.
us the truth?
They're
tell
liars.
the American people the truth. They deserve that from their government.
But
again, the fundamental question is,
they're not going to get
what
it.
did they do to warrant the receipt of millions and millions of dollars? Why did Joe Biden's brother? Why did Joe Biden's sister-in-law? Why did Joe Biden's son? Why did so many family members get the money? What did they do to warrant receipt of that money? That's the fundamental question. Chairman Comer and the team have done great work, and they're determined to get answers to those fundamental questions.
Well done. So that is Jim Jordan. Let's see how Comer closes it out.
I want to thank the committee. I want to thank the staff for all the time pouring through these documents. Now we would like to entertain questions, and I want to begin with the fourth largest newspaper in the state,
New York
who
Post?
I read somewhere was banned from the White House.
New York
but we'll
Post?
start with the New York Post.
Nice.
You're always welcome here.
I'd like to ask you two questions. First, about the investigative next steps, and secondly, about the FBI informant file that you're seeking. Regarding next steps, you produced a significant amount of information so far about foreign income to the president's family. No doubt there's going to be more to come.
Question is about next steps and the FBI informant.
The central thesis that President Biden was directly involved with corruption without getting bank records for either President Biden, James Biden, Hunter Biden, showing the transfer of money or the payments of expenses that President Biden should have picked up himself.
Is Joe Biden the president implicated?
Well, first of all, with respect to President Biden, I don't think anyone in America who's watching C-SPAN or any other network that's covering this would think that it's just a coincidence that 9 Biden family members have received money for this influence peddling scheme. I mean,
From
what
foreign
as
entities.
Representative Jordan and the other speakers said, what business is there? You know, the media has always said two things. First of all, the media have said, many in the media have said that no transactions happened while Joe Biden was vice president. We've proven that wrong. Joe Biden said during 2020 that his family never took any money from China. Today, we've proven that wrong, and you have it in your memorandum, the bank transfers. So we believe that the president has been involved in this from the very beginning, obviously. We're going to continue to look. There are, what we've cited today and what we're updating you with today, 4 banks. Those result from 4 banks. We believe there are 12 banks. So right now, you could say that we're in the beginning stages of this investigation, but many of you wrote, I read your stories, many of you wrote, not the New York Post, but many of you wrote that we would never get access to bank records because that's what the White House told you. And they said we would never have access to the Treasury because that's what the White House and Jamie Raskin told you. But we have the bank records. We're going to get more bank records. We just got the bank records from going through the associates. We knew there were people that were wiring money, that were accepting the initial payments from our adversaries around the world, and then they were funneling the money to the Bidens through various LLCs. So we got the bank records through the back door. And we can tell you from the people that we're meeting with that were involved with many of the schemes that we're pretty confident that the president was very knowledgeable
of everything going on. And so let's jump over and take a look at the documents that we've been discussing. The memo comes from the House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Accountability, dated on May 10th, regarding the second bank records memo and the investigation into the Biden family's influence peddling schemes. The purpose of this is to inform the majority members of everything that's happening here. There was a prior memo that came out in March. The second memo expands on information that they got from recently returned subpoenas. The committee has subpoenaed 4 different banks, received thousands of records in response. The bank subpoenas were tailored to specific individuals and companies and activities, specifically with Biden family members and their associates. We're going to continue to update you with more information. But here is the summary. From the Oversight Committee, they tell us there's a lack of transparency in the Biden family. When he ran as a candidate, he said that he received no money from China. But that is not true. The White House refuses to correct the records. They'll stand by that lie. The committee has reviewed thousands of bank records via subpoena. They tell us that the Biden family and their associates created a web of over 20 companies. Most were LLCs formed during the vice presidency. And so if we had an actual media, if we had an actual DOJ, they would go and investigate each one of those 20 companies. Literally, they would pull them open. What were they formed? Why were they created? Did they have websites? Were they set up appropriately? What were they doing there? And as we know, there probably is no real basis for it other than transacting money. And Comer and the Oversight Committee got their hands on that. Biden got over $10 million from foreign national companies. They identified payments to the Biden family members during the time Joe was VP. They used business associates companies to receive the funds in the amount of millions of dollars, and they were concealing large financial transactions along the way. Chinese nationals also hid the source of the money. Significant ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and the number of Biden family members is large. Now, this is a little bit more detail about the second batch. They're telling us in this section, this is a big document, so we're going to go fast. But Americans deserve legislative solutions, right? And we've already heard them talk about a lot of this. This is the justification for why Congress is doing this. If Congress just said we're only doing this for the purpose of prosecuting Joe, then that would be inappropriate. Congress would not have the jurisdiction, the authority to do that. But if they're contemplating legislation, then this report is all now legitimate. They tell us that Biden has been misleading us about his foreign business dealings. As a nominee, he said, my son has not made money in terms of this thing. You know, what are you talking about, China? Says, I have not had, the only guy who made money from China is Donald Trump. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China. It's not true. Biden's bank records prove otherwise. In 2017, Biden and his family received millions of dollars from the Chinese foreign national companies. This amount doesn't include money from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Romania, Oman, or other foreign business deals. It also does not include any payments that went over to Hunter and BHR partners. In March of this year, committee issued a subpoena, and in response, Biden said that's not true when asked about being paid $1 million. Evidence shows that's not accurate. Biden has denied the existence of this evidence, but the committee has included redacted copies of bank records in this memo. Let's see what else we have here. Do we have some charts? Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. We got charts. We've got photos. Oh, yes. We've got redacted. Looks like transaction records. We have more charts. Oh, we're liking where this is going. So as we continue on, they tell us that they are contemplating getting the records and they're investigating the entire network. The Bidens have identified or worked with 20 companies affiliated with them, and the services remain under scrutiny. Assuming the vice presidency in 2009, records revealed that Hunter and his business associates formed 15 companies. All of these are the companies: Lion Hall, Owasco, Robinson Walker, Scantinelli's, all of these, right? Rosemont Seneca, Seneca Global, Rosemont Realty, Rosemont Seneca Bohai, Rosemont Seneca Advisors, Rosemont Seneca Thornton, CEFC, and all of them. Bank records prove that Biden family members and their associates received millions. The committee is focusing on several entities that got money from foreign companies. This includes these, Hudson West and others, including Rosemont Seneca. The amount of money is significant. Wires and money transfers range from approximately $5,000 all the way up to $3 million. Any services provided for these fees would likely have corresponding invoices, wouldn't they? And the companies may also maintain books and records detailing the use of the funds. The parties should have contracts and agreements, but they don't. They'll say the committee intends to obtain those materials if they exist as part of its investigation. We've got Romanian transactions in here. The committee is releasing redacted bank records regarding the Biden's family presence in Romania. We know about this payment system. We hear about Rob Walker and James Gilliar and then Biden family. So it sounds like we've got two individuals who are often in the transactions. Rob Walker established one LLC, and Biden family members received over $2 million in payments through this guy. He was a vehicle. They would receive foreign funds and send a percentage of the money to Biden family members. One example: Robinson Walker got $3 million. Over the course of 3 months, he then transferred approximately 1/3 of that to Biden family members. So they walked away with $1 million, bringing the total to over $2 million. Hunter Biden, this looks like it's a document from a proposal. What did Hunter Biden do to earn any of this money? Well, he was key in relationship setup, messaging the goodwill around the chairman and the non-conflict status of the entry. He was acting as a bridge between two great nations. He was also writing to all the parties, organizing the meetings, promoting the organization, and approving the strategic and operational elements. Wow, that's what Hunter did. It's probably worth like $1 million at least. Head of the international operation was James Gilliar. He got support, and so he was paid to qualify and endorse the chairman. Hallie Biden got $25,000 for some reason. No context around that money, why that money got sent over there. Hallie Biden received 2 transfers of money. And they also got $3 million from Romanian Gabriel Popovich Cypriot company. A lot of money. So this is detailing all of the transactions. Let's fast forward and see if we can see some other documents. Here is a record from November 5th, 2015, $180,000 into the bank account. Blade On Enterprises. You see it's all redacted. US dollar amount, 180 grand. Walker, after that amount, then transferred 60 grand to his personal account. Then he wired the same amount over to Hunter Biden. So it goes from some company called Blade On to Walker. Walker then transfers it into his personal account. Then it goes from the personal account over into Hunty's account. And they follow the whole transaction along the way. Wire transfer out, $59,900. What for? Don't know. But it was repeated many, many times. You can follow the transaction here. Here's transaction number 2. Same pattern, 60,000 bucks transferred. And here's transaction number 3, 172,000 bucks transferred. Now this one got transferred over to Hallie Biden for 10 grand. And the list goes on and on. Blade On goes to Robert Walker. Robert Walker sends the money over to Hunty. And he's just splitting it up as they go along. You see all the transactions are there. In total, Biden bank accounts received $1 million, $38,627.08. The committee is releasing bank records to provide an update on this. They tell us about other partners with connections to the CCP. Yi Jianming, he reported to the PLC. This photograph shows President Xi and others. They say that this organization, the CEFC, was used to bribe and corruptly influence officials. Gongwang Dong is also listed in this. Same thing is happening here. Dong made headlines. He purchased a $50 million home in Central Park. Bank records indicated he transferred over $130 million to entities as controlled below. But then Dong and Hunter established a company called Hunter Hudson West. They each owned 50% of this new company. And over time, records show that between August 2017 and October 2018, Hudson West sent over $4 million to Hunter Biden related companies and $75,000 to James Biden related companies. Millions and millions. Yi Jianming was apprehended by Chinese authorities. Hunter knew his relationship was problematic. He tried to distance himself. He said, "We're not funded by these people." We've got some more records showing up here, showing that they're members of the same organization. They got a $10 million injection from China, from the Shanghai Wakin Group out of Hong Kong. Here's another $100,000 transaction wired over. Hunter Biden's professional corporation got that transaction from China. This transaction, showing that this landed in Hunter's bank account for 100 grand, disproves Biden's claim that his family got no money from China. It's right there. Furthermore, the corporate records obtained via subpoena show how Dong, Hunter's Chinese business partner, attempted to hide the money by layering LLCs formed in Delaware. Where's Joe Biden from? Oh yeah, Delaware. Here's the plan to hide the payments. Step 1. CEFC creates the infrastructure with Hunter. Hudson West is the sole member. Then Hudson West is removed as the sole member, and they add in another group called the Watson Group. Then the Watson Group sends the infrastructure group, CEFC, $10 million, and then they make the payment over to Owasco, which is the Hunter company. So it's just following the bouncing ball all the way until it lends into Hunter's piggy bank. There's Energy Group's $3 million payments to Robinson Walker, which was also dispersed to different Biden accounts. You see all of these different disbursements. The timing of the diamond purchase is questionable. He sent a large diamond to Hunter Biden in Miami, 2.8 carats estimated to be worth $80,000. Hunter claims he gave the diamond to an unnamed associate, just gave it away. $80,000 diamond. Crack makes you do things that are whack. State Energy HK made billions of dollars in payments as well. A lot of money being transacted here. The wire payment, this one is a $3 million one. This one goes to James Gilliar. Wire transfers are listed below. The beneficiary account. Here's this one. Hallie Biden in 2017 for 25 grand. What's that for? And others are known as Biden. Is that Joe Biden? He's the top Biden. All of these other disbursements. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre and President Biden have publicly denied this evidence. They just say it's seed funds. Here's another payment to an unknown Biden. We don't know what Biden account this is. 25 grand. Where'd that one go? Here's another one. 25 grand. Here's another one. 300 grand. Another $125,000. Here is the entire scheme. China makes payments to the Biden family accordingly. China sends it to Chairman Ye. He has an entity called State Energy HK. Also has this guy running Hudson West, Gongweng Dong. Guang creates CEFC and Hudson West 2. Those entities create other LLCs that Hunter's a part of, called Owasco LLC, and LLC here. So do you see these layers of division? So really Hunter's kind of over here, right? Hunter Biden is like on this end here. These are other LLCs. So so China's over here, one step removed. You've got this guy. He doesn't want to be involved. He creates another layer. This is called Hudson West. All right. That's another company. That's run by Gongwen. Then he creates, that company creates other companies that they've got ownership interest in. Hudson West 3, CEFC. And then another entity or other entities are created called Owasco and Scantala. So many layers, and then you get to Hunter Biden. So you see it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers removed to keep him away. Now the same thing happens with James and Sarah. They've got the same layers, multiple layers, and they have their own LLCs or incorporations. JBB Sr. Incorporated. Probably James B. Biden Sr. He's got a corporation. He's got a Lion Hall Group. He's got other LLCs. Hallie Biden, don't know what she's involved in, but you've got Chairman Ye. You see, he's doing the same thing. Just like Hunter and his pals had multiple layers of LLCs to hide them. So they're doing the same thing. So this chart, you know, if Hunter's here, let's say Hunter is like right here, Hunter's got LLC 1, 2, 3. Those LLCs are going to have 1, 2, 3, and same thing going on here. And you're just layering all of these things on so that nobody can really connect the dots. Who the hell is doing what? Where's the money going? What's happening? Chairman Ye is doing that. So he's not putting all his eggs in the Gongweng Dong basket. He's also got State Energy H&K. Somebody over there gave the diamond over to Hunter because ultimately Hunty is working for this guy, right? He's working, he's doing the bidding of the Chinese, but he's so far removed, all of these layers are separating him out. This one is another layer. Think of it like little force fields. Literally, like you are shielded from liability. It's limited liability company. You've got protections. They're literal force fields. Robinson Walker is now protecting Hallie Biden, and Vuk Jeremic, Center for International Relations and Sustainable Development. You know, I don't even know what these entities are. But who is this unknown Biden? Who is this person? We don't know who this person is. Could that be Joe? Don't know. But you can see how many layers there are. They've got concrete evidence of the following. They say there is clear indicia of a scheme. The Biden family have been coordinating with Chinese nationals, including Chairman Ye. The committee is going to be gathering additional bank records in the very near future. We're rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse at the highest level in the federal government. They've issued letters for documents, for transcribed interviews. They're going to continue to engage. And those who have not cooperated with our process, we'll see what they do about it. Committee will continue to engage with those who have not worked with them. But he is sounding like there will be additional subpoenas going out to a whole slew of additional banks. And we've got questions about who that missing Biden person was and whether it is the president. So that, my friends, is it for the Biden bombshell. $10 million in foreign money, at least. And this is probably just cracking the surface of what is ultimately happening here. And so we covered a lot of ground today. The Biden bombshell. We also got up to speed on the Trump appeal. We know that E. Jean Carroll is admitting to this whole concocted scheme. We know that Tim Pool is now a Nazi, according to Roberta Kaplan, and an extremist. And if you're a juror or anybody who listens to Tim Pool, we know what they think about you. We're also up to speed on the Trump appeal, saying he is going to be doing it, and he laid out some of the basis for the appeal. And so now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about all of this. We're going to jump into YouTube. We're going to jump into Rumble. We're going to say hello to locals and to Twitter and check in on the latest. And so let's pull this up, starting with our friends on YouTube. As the screen loads, who is first in the house? Voice of the people. Good to see you, Voice. Says, for all new members, please join the members only streams. Yes, we do them in the mornings. There's not a scheduled time, but we do them right about the same time. I think they're really about, well, they're mornings my time. They're about noon Eastern time, I want to say, is about when they are. But yeah, that came in from Voice of the People. Rob's great, giving you the info. The headline shows are a lot of fun. They're a little bit more casual. We get to sort of develop the news organically together. It's fun. And a lot of the show prep comes out of the morning stream. So come check us out. Become a member on YouTube or join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, Voice of the People says, can't wait for the CNN town hall tonight, which I think is like in 13 minutes, which is great timing. Talking about the case and the town hall Saturday on the Off-Label podcast with Freely, Ashley, and I. So make sure you're checking out the Off-Label podcast to get the latest scoop on CNN Town Hall. Yeah, I think it's being streamed, well, on CNN, but I think Crowder's doing a stream on it. Like a bunch of people will be streaming it tonight, I'm sure. We'll cover the CNN Town Hall tomorrow. We'll see what Trump has to say about it. But I'll be looking forward also to the Off-Label podcast discussing it this Saturday. Make sure you're subscribed over there as well. Thanks, Voice. Says, hey, what's up with the sudden attack on Tim Pool? I don't know. BBC article made it seem like he did the Texas thing on Twitter. I know. The Texas guy was somehow radicalized by him on a Russian social media site found by someone not in the U.S. And now this. I'm totally with you, Voice. I agree. Yeah, I thought it's ridiculous. Tim Pool's like responsible for, I think he caused COVID now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure Tim Pool is responsible for COVID, in addition to January 6th as well. Thanks, Voice. I don't know what it is, but I do think it's troubling. I mean, I don't think that there is a coincidence here. There's attacks on everything else. Why wouldn't they be attacking some of the strongest, biggest commentators as well? They're going after every other institution. So why wouldn't it serve them to also cause chaos in conservative media? It just makes sense to think that they're not doing it, but they're doing everything else, like litigating elections, like prosecuting political opponents, all of the other things that were without historical precedent they're now doing. Why would they also not be trying to marginalize mainstream commentators? It just seems like an obvious play, obviously. Oh yeah, Carroll says Tim Pool sunk the Titanic. And he blew up Japan? So not only is Tim Pool a Nazi, he sunk the Titanic and he's responsible for the atomic bomb. He blew up all of Japan twice. Tim Pool did it twice. And until he disavows that, I think, it's just what he killed JFK too. All right, enough. I can't take it. Fred says Johnny was playing around with some Glay-like material. He was growling and writing labels. No, Fred, don't joke about that. Don't joke about that. Fred Pedamonte. I think he's going to, yeah, he's going to be doing something. He's going to be doing something. Good to see you, Fred. Michael Allen Hughes says, Arkansas lawyers for Little Navy must be listening. Arkansas lawyers for Little Navy must be listening. I don't know what for Little... Oh! For Little Navy. Little Navy Biden. Oh, yeah. That's Hunter's daughter. Yeah, she's probably listening in. I wonder if she listens to this show. Shout out to Navy Biden. Shout out to Navy Biden out there. I don't think that's her official last name yet, but it should be, given the fact that she's Hunter Biden's daughter, is what I meant. Navy Biden. Yeah, from Arkansas. That's right. Yeah. I didn't see any transactions to her. She wasn't included in this. Ridiculous. Hey, Zulu. Thank you very much, Zulu. Zulu invited 5 new members over in the house. And let's say welcome to these amazing new members. Who's here? Catania, Mama Italia, welcome. We've got, which is a welcome back, I believe. Ice Station Zebras in the house. Jackie Kennedy's joining us. Wow. That's amazing. Unsound Engineer and N. Doug all coming in courtesy of Zulu. Thank you, Zulu, for inviting 5 new members to join us. And hey, new members on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram stream for the after party. Just Me says, I wonder what the stripper belly button diamond, what the diamond needs up in. An $80,000 stripper diamond? Do you think he gave it to his baby mama? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think that he said he's broke and he doesn't want to pay custody, even though he has $80,000 diamonds. Gross. Okay, so that, my friends, is what came in over on YouTube. And hey, John McGarvey, if you're on YouTube, it's a gift fever over there. We've got Liz coming in hot, Alpha She-Wolf, Mama Rocks, Garrett House, and Pilar Pizarro also came in as new members. And thank you, John McGarvey, for inviting new members. And everybody, we go live in the mornings. We do extra casual streams for members only. And so welcome aboard. Thank you, John. Thank you, Zulu. Thank you, Dolphin Fan, for inviting them in. Very much appreciated. All right. And let's say hello to our friends over on Rumble and see what is happening over there. Let's see. We've got various different screens here. Okay. Over on Rumble, where is my chat? There it is. Janex says, hey, Rob, Fairy Dance, Janex over there. We've got Hawks Hunt is over there. User 1121. Sedona Rock says, is Tim Pool on Rumble? I don't know if he's on Rumble. Tim Pool's beanies responsible for COVID. Yeah, for COVID-19. Yeah, I mean, did it originate from Tim's beanie or something? I don't know. Yeah, Tim Pool is on Rumble, they say. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so make sure you're following him on Rumble. It really is a scary concept if they're going to start taking out, going after mainstream commentators and trying to take them out, calling them extremists, such that if you even listen to them, you're no longer a qualified juror. You're kind of crazy. You need to be thrown off the panel, lest that opinion infect your capability to be impartial. Whatever Works is over there. Sedona Rocks is over there. Anything. It's good to see everybody over on Rumble. And we appreciate you subscribing on Rumble and watching on Rumble. We're getting a full chat. We appreciate everybody being over there. We had a couple comments come in on, yes, indoctrination. So indoctrination he left a tip over on Locals, and he says that we're going over to, he says, another great broadcast. but we're heading over to Mug Club for the Trump town hall. Always great content. We'll see you there. Yeah, so the Mug Club is doing a town hall, I think, like in 5 minutes. They're probably live right now, but they're going to be covering Trump. Probably going to be a very good watch. We'll certainly be checking it out. GSD lady says, don't forget that there are other members of Congress who were involved in some of these businesses. For sure, John Kerry's son, I think Pelosi's son, and somebody else for sure. I think that somebody else was Mitt Romney, right? Wasn't his son involved in some of this? I think so. There's a lot of it. I think that this is not just limited to the Biden family, which is probably why nobody wants to talk about it, because it is probably everywhere. And so shout out to our friends on Locals. We'll be back to Locals for our after party in a short minute. Let's say hello to our friends on Twitter. We've got 5 viewers on Twitter. Woo, woo, out of control. Let's see who we have in the comments. We had a couple here to share. First one's from Vienti Kiss. He says, my political Venn diagram. The left is everything that I like. The alt-right is everything that I don't like, which is exactly right. And this is actually alt-right, dangerous, violent extremism. This is like, if you're in the red, I think you're supposed to be executed on sight or something like that. Danny says, can Trump sue her for a refund? No. No refunds. No refunds on the liable verdict. This one says, trust me, I'm Joe Biden. And these are these hilarious Muppets. Deplorable Fred says, the justice system in the U.S. is read the transcript of the trial. Judge injected himself, literally cut the defense off, and sustained every objection, overruled 95% of the defense. That's a good comment from Fred Pedamonte, the deplorable Fred. Pumpkin Marie says, I'm so tired of the MSM and the Democrats crying wolf nonstop. Tell me about it. And Rhea says the Bidens should have used Bitcoin. Should have used Bitcoin. Well, we'd be able to track it a lot easier if they did. They wouldn't want to get caught. So that's probably why they didn't do it. But okay, my friends, I think that is it for us on the day. And Dolphin Fan sent in another one. Dolphin Fan says 2 of Joe's grandkids were getting money too. If there's 9 people, I got to imagine if you're a grandkid and you're not getting money, when you're a kid and you're looking over at your cousin and they're getting a bigger present than you or something, you're like, what? So one of Joe Biden's grandkids is like pulling out stacks of cash for, Burisma consultation fee. And the other grandkids are like, the heck is this? All I got is Joe Biden sniffing me over here. Get away from me, Grandpa. And so it feels like it's a little bit imbalanced. And so we're going to see what Congress is able to unveil for us shortly. We had a couple other come in. Hey, we had one from Barb Loves Alaska. Barb Loves Alaska on Rumble says, can Joe Biden pardon Hunter prior to any indictment? Yeah, I think he could. I think he could give him a pardon for old historical content. He could preemptively pardon him for what he's already done. I think he could do that. And he might do it before or after, maybe after. Maybe if Joe Biden doesn't win, that's his final act on the way out. Facts Matter has been a member for 8 months on YouTube. Thank you, Facts Matter, for being so supportive, for being around for 8 months and going through all of this craziness with us. It says Tim Pool invented turkey bacon, which might, I think that is the biggest offense of all of them. The fact that offense to nature exists, which is the worst thing. I think about everything that we've talked about. Tim Pool's responsible for a lot. Creation of turkey bacon, the worst. Dolphin fans in the house. We also had Voice of the People, man. We got so many members coming in. Thank you, Voice. We've got Marlene Stewart's coming. We've got Gator Aaron, W Daisy Girl, Jose Rodriguez, and 2 Tim 3, all gifted a membership courtesy of our friend Voice of the People. And so tomorrow's member-only morning stream is going to be lit. Thank you, everybody, for bringing everybody in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're growing. It's growing like crazy, which is super cool. And so thank you to Barbs, thank you to Fax, thank you to Dolphin, and thank you for Vientikis and Donut Mind Me for clipping away over there like crazy, keeping me on track. I appreciate it. But that, my friends, will be it for us on the day. Oh, I wanted to share this meme with you today. We were talking a lot about Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden, he did a rendering of me in art form. And you know, we've talked a lot about Hunter's artwork and how it often resembles moldy milk and mucus in a bowl in the sink. You know, you've seen his finger paintings. He made one of me since we've been talking about him so much on the show. Here's what it looks like. Oh, yeah. Isn't that just disgusting? That's my moldy milk portrait, courtesy of Hunty. Oh, gross. It's beautiful. I think it brings out my cancer, my skin cancer. That's nice. That came in from Jigam Gigam. Thank you, Jigam, for that one. And we also, this is an oldie but a goodie. This one's been around a while, but every time we talk about Joe and the Hunter crime family, we always have this one. That's when I get, yeah, this one I have nightmares about. This one I have to look over my shoulder. I'm wondering what the heck is going on here. Gross. Gives me the heebie-jeebies. All right, and so that's another one that popped up over on Locals, courtesy of our friend Jigam Gigam and our amazing meme smiths over there. We appreciate all the good fun and liveliness over there. Odessia says that's Hunter's best work yet. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, gosh. All right, so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Members, stick around. If you're on YouTube, get the Telegram link because we're going over to our after party. Just go over into the community tab section, scroll down. It's a members only link. Get the link, hop on Telegram, and come and join us. If you don't want to join over there, come and join us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where it's our home base. It's our main community. We have a lot of fun, a lot of great stories, a lot of great comments. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is the place to be. And don't forget to get your field of greens to be properly nutrified and fortified as we go through these times ahead. Check it out, fieldofgreens.com. Get your real organic superfood. It tastes great. It's got your daily servings of fruits and vegetables. Literally, like if you just look at the label, just go to the website, look at the label. You'll be like, okay, all right, Rob, you're right. It's like, it's fruits and vegetables. That's it. And it tastes good. It is nutritious. Look at the vegetables. You'll get it. Fieldofgreens.com. Save 15% with code Robert. Also, don't forget to take a look if you want a mind map activity. If you want to use this software, it's great software. I use it for all sorts of stuff. I'm using it for another project I'm going to share with you at some point soon. But spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap is where you can sign up, get a free account, and join in on the mind mapping bonanza. I want to shout out the mods and the meme smiths who keep this show orderly and nice and lively. Big thank yous go out to Vientikis Prime, our friend K Bean. We've got Just Cause. Shout outs to Playin' Hooky. Ronnie Cole's in the house. Our friend Zulu. Big ups to Geomancy Games. Hello to Zach Nichols. And what's up to John Allen? We have Janek909 in the house, our friend Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me modding down the fort for us all. Shout outs go to Sleepy Dog Lee and Jigam Gigam, our meme smiths over on Locals. We appreciate you guys. But that is it for us, my friends. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and Telegram. Grab the Telegram link for our after party. We hope to see you there, but if not, we will be back here tomorrow to do it all again. Same time, same place, same location. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. Thank you for sharing it with a friend, inviting them to come join us for a live stream, because tomorrow we'll be very busy, and I look forward to seeing you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Enjoy the Trump town hall. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.